While simulating a heatsink in SemiSel, it is possible to simply simulate a fixed heatsink temperature, neglecting all other cooling factors. The temperature under the modules is fixed to the value entered in this field. However, this temperature remains constant, regardless of whether or not it may be cooled by a realistic cooling system. Therefore, it is recommended to consider realistic heatsink properties for the power module selection. The heatsinks used in SemiSel are not real heatsinks. They are simply models that have been adapted to the size and the number of the selected power modules. The idea is to provide dimensions and a thermal resistance of a required heatsink, which could then be used as a specification for a heatsink supplier. If you already know the thermal impedance of your chosen heatsink, you can then skip this step and go directly to the Z-theta table. The first input of any simulation with a heatsink is the ambient temperature, which means the temperature of the coolant, either air or liquid. To explain the cooling features, we have chosen a three-phase inverter and a classical half-bridge IGBT module. The circuit has three phase legs. We need one module for each phase leg in this example, and all three phases are on a single heatsink, represented here by the gray boxes 1, 2, and 3. It is also possible for any phase leg to have its own heatsink. Here, we now have one module per heatsink. Parallel connections of modules may also be necessary. Now, we have three modules on the heatsink again. However, they are labeled with the number 1, indicating that they will all be used together in phase 1 and share the phase current. For a certain number of modules, here in total 9, the air-cooled heatsink becomes too large. The model equations used in the background are no longer valid. The dimensions, which are too large, are indicated by the red frame around the modules, and an error message appears. To proceed with air cooling, we need to reduce the number of modules or the space between the modules. The maximum dimensions for an air-cooled heatsink are 600 millimeters in length and width, which is exceeded here. There are some special cases with the module arrangement, such as a module with a single switch. SemiSel always requires one complete phase leg per heatsink. In the case of a single switch, that means 2 modules are necessary for a phase leg of a 2-level inverter. Now, let's look at a 6-pack where only 2 phase legs are used. Unused phase legs appear empty when not in use, such as this 6-pack module shown.